What's going on, guys? It has been a long while, and before I get into this video, I know the majority of you guys subscribe to me for Animal Crossing videos, and I did record another villager hunting video with the new villagers that they added in the expansion. I never posted it, but if you guys want me to edit it and post it for you guys, I'm more than happy to do so. So just let me know if you guys want to see one more final Animal Crossing villager hunting video on the new ones that were added in the expansion of like months ago. That's all I want to say, so let's get right into this. Okay, so recently Street Fighter 6 was announced by Capcom, and I'm super excited. I'm a big Street Fighter fan. It's either my second or third favorite fighting game. So with the announcement of Street Fighter 6, I wanted to do a roster prediction so I can see how wrong I was when the game finally comes out. So first things first, we have to pick a number. How many characters are going to be in the base roster? And I think Street Fighter 5 went way too low. I definitely think there's going to be somewhere around like 20, but for this video, I'm going with 25. I think that's the absolute most we'll get. I don't think we're going to get 25, but I do think there's a chance we get 25, if that makes sense. So I'm going with 25. The more characters, the better. Makes the video more fun. Also, before we get started in the video, we do have to pick a time period. And for this roster, I'm going to say that the time period is post Third Strike. If you don't know, Third Strike is the last game within the timeline chronologically. Street Fighter 3 or Third Strike is the final game. It might not be post Third Strike. I'm really hoping it is. Also, there's a lot of characters to run through, so I can't go like super in depth with all of them. So I'll just have to go over them like quickly, briefly, and then we're just gonna have to move on to the next one. Now that that's out of the way, we got to start with the first two fighters that we already know is going to be in the game.
This is the path of my destiny.
So, you really want to go through the trouble? Fine.
Round one.
Fight.
There they are. So we already know that Ryu and Luke are going to be in Street Fighter 6. They were in the teaser. Ryu is obviously, he's the main character, OG. There should never be a Street Fighter game without him. And Luke is a newcomer. And I don't think he's going to be the only newcomer, which I'll talk about in a sec. But Luke was first introduced in Street Fighter 5. Most of you who are Street Fighter fans obviously know this. But he is technically a Street Fighter 6 character. That's kind of like how they introduced him. They're basically like, the final character is a Street Fighter 6 character. That's basically how they said it. He's obviously in it, but he's not going to be the only new character. I'm going to say there's going to be 4 new characters. Technically 3 new characters besides Luke. I'm counting Luke within the 4. So there's going to be 4 newcomers. Luke is one of them. So we're going to add 3 more just mystery characters because there's obviously going to be new ones. There's no chance in hell that Capcom has only returning characters. Now with that out of the way, 5 slots have already been taken. Ryu, Luke, and then 3 other new characters. So we only have 20 spots left. And I think it's pretty safe to say this next character is going to be in the game.
Ken wins.
And that's right. Honestly, if Ken's not in the game, that's going to be a load of horseshit. Ken is literally the Sub-Zero to Ryu's Scorpion. They go hand in hand. So Ryu and Ken, they have to be in the game. Ken is obviously another mainstay, been in every Street Fighter game. I think he was in the first one too. I believe 100% that Ryu, Ken, and one other character are going to be in every Street Fighter game. And that next character is
ChunLi wins.
And to no one's surprise, it is ChunLi, the First Lady of Fighting Games, or so she is called. Obviously, she wasn't in Street Fighter 1, correct me if I'm wrong, but she has been in every Street Fighter since Street Fighter 2. I don't think she was in the first iteration of 3, but I know for a fact that she was added into 3 with the later iterations, so I'm counting it. ChunLi is actually my favorite character in Street Fighter, so I'm happy that ChunLi is like a mainstay character because it's always nice to have your favorite in, you know what I'm saying? ChunLi's awesome. She's gonna be in every game. I think that's a pretty easy one. Next up, we have another classic Street Fighter character, and that is
Guile wins.
And there you have it, Guile joining the roster for Street Fighter 6. Now, I'm going to be honest, I really debated whether or not I was going to put Guile in the base roster or not. He wasn't in the base roster of 5, but as I was thinking about it, I was like, man, Guile really feels like a staple character, like one of those characters who's almost on the level of Ryu Ken and ChunLi. He just seems like one of those characters who has to be in, you know? And obviously, Guile is the go-to charge character of Street Fighter. I did debate putting Remy in instead, but I felt like Guile was just too iconic to be replaced by Remy. Remy's cool. If he comes back as like DLC, sure. But for now, base roster, I got my eyes on Guile for the base roster. All right, next up we have another Street Fighter 2 character, not a World Warrior, but they are a Street Fighter 2 character, and that is
Cami wins.
Cami officially joining the Street Fighter 6 roster. She's not a World Warrior. I believe she first appeared in Super Street Fighter 2. Could be wrong, but I believe it was Super Street Fighter 2. Just like Guile, Cami to me seems like one of those characters who's right under Ryu Ken ChunLi. She seems like one of those characters who just has to be in. They're just too iconic to the Street Fighter franchise. Not on the same level as those three, but right under it with Guile. Just like the previous Street Fighter 2 characters, she is an absolute fan favorite, and we do have a couple more Street Fighter 2 characters coming up. And the next one is...
You win!
That's right, it is Street Fighter's very own Bruce Lee clone. Now, Fei Long didn't make it into Street Fighter 5, which I think is kind of criminal. You know, he seems like he was left out. I think he's fairly popular, and now is a good time for him to make his return. You know, it's always cool to have the Bruce Lee type characters like him and Liu Kang. I think Liu Kang's more like inspired by Bruce Lee, but still his own thing. Whereas Fei Long he's kind of just Bruce Lee with a different name, which is still really cool, and I'm all for it. I want Fei Long to make his return for Street Fighter 6.
Akuma wins.
There we go. A fan favorite antagonist of the Street Fighter franchise. Now, just like Guile, he was not base roster of Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 5, though, did have a very small base roster, so obviously not everyone made it in. But Akuma, he's also on the same level as Cami and Guile. I feel like he just has to be in the game, either like very early DLC or base roster. And I think Akuma should be base roster because he wasn't base roster in the last game. Also, get him a haircut. No more of the lion mane sunflower looking Akuma. Give him a new haircut. Bring back the old haircut, or like give him a new one that's better. Either way, I'm just saying, bring Akuma back. He's sick. Just, you know, fix that hair. Alright, now that includes all the Street Fighter 2 characters for the base roster. Now you might have noticed some of the big ones weren't there, like Balrog, Dalsim, Zangief, Vega, and Bison. They didn't make the cut, but I think we need to mix up the roster. We need a good balance of characters from every different game. Next up, we got the Street Fighter Alpha characters, and the first one is...
Rose wins.
Now, I feel this was a fairly obvious pick. Rose, if you played her like short character story within Street Fighter V, it really seems like they set up Rose to play a more important role in the future of the franchise. Getting Rose back is going to be really cool if they bring her back for the base roster. I think she has a pretty unique playstyle with the scarf and the cards. I think she's a cool character. I want her back. They set her up to seem like she was going to play an important role, like I said, so it just makes sense to bring her back base roster, in all honesty. I did also debate either including Manat instead of Rose or including Rose and Manat, but in the end I just decided for Rose. Wouldn't be surprised if Manat returns as like DLC, but for now base roster, just Rose. And now we're moving on to the next alpha character.
Sakura wins.
Everyone's favorite Ryu protege, copycat, whatever you want to call her. I love Sakura, whatever you want to call her. I call her Sakura. She's actually my second favorite character behind ChunLi. I want her in base roster. I'm just saying. I think she won the character popularity poll too, like a few years back. I'm pretty damn sure she was #1. So it kind of just makes sense to bring her back, but they might also make her DLC because they know she'll sell like a ton. I don't know what they would do for her story. Obviously, the story doesn't really matter. They can do whatever they want to include her. They'll find a way. If they want her in, she'll be in. They might sell her as DLC, but I'm hoping she's base roster. So I'm saying Sakura for Street Fighter 6. Alright, now we have one more alpha character, and that is
Now ready to commence the attack.
The battle has begun. Fight!
Final Fight's very own Guy. Now, Guy I think is a really cool character. Again, he missed out of Street Fighter 5. Cody made it in, but now I think it's time for Guy to shine. Cody made it in last game. Let's get Guy in base roster for 6. Maybe bring in Cody later, but for now, let's make sure Guy is in the base roster of 6 as Street Fighter 6's like ninja character. Plus I feel like he really fits in with like the theme they're going for, because it seems like they're going back more towards the hip hop era that they had with Street Fighter like during Third Strike, where there was like a lot of hip hop influence within the game, which I think is really fucking cool. I want them to go back to that so bad. It gave the game such a good vibe. Now I do want to say, I do want Maki to return. She was only playable in Alpha 3 Max. I believe it was the one she was playable in. I think that's the only Street Fighter game she was in. She might have been in another version of Alpha 3. I could be wrong though. I do want Maki to return too, but I felt like Guy is a much more iconic and popular character. But if they replace Guy and have Maki in instead, again, she's also a Final Fight character, and they're both ninjas. They do both practice the same form of ninjutsu or whatever they do. If they have Maki in instead of Guy, I'll be cool with that too. Maybe they bring her as DLC. That's fine. But for now, I'm saying Guy for Street Fighter 6. Alright, so that concludes the alpha section for the Street Fighter 6 roster, and now we're going to be moving into Street Fighter 3 characters. It seems like Street Fighter is moving back towards like the Third Strike vibe, the Third Strike era, where it had like a lot of hip hop music and it just had an overall hip hop vibe. That's really awesome. That's what I want them to do. But it only makes sense that if they're doing that, to bring back a large chunk of the Third Strike characters. So the Third Strike character portion is going to be fairly long. There's going to be a lot of Third Strike characters. That's what I'm saying. And the first one is
You win!
and it is Dudley. You already noticed that I didn't include Balrog as like the boxer of the game. He's a Street Fighter 2 character. He's a classic. I think it's time for Dudley to come back base roster Street Fighter 6. He'll be the go-to boxer character. They might bring Balrog back like as DLC. That's totally cool. But for now, let's have Dudley in. You know, he's a gentleman. He's British. I think he's British. He's sick. He looks like an absolute tank of a boxer. But then again, everyone in Street Fighter is absolutely ripped, except for you, Rufus, and a couple others. Don't bring Rufus back, for the love of God. Anyways, Dudley, Street Fighter 6, I'm calling it that he's going to be base roster. Alright, now following up Dudley, we have another fan favorite character.
You win!
Makoto. Everyone loves her. She might have been #2 on the popularity poll. Maybe she was a little lower, but she was definitely very high on the popularity poll. I remember that. Everyone wanted Makoto for Street Fighter 5, so definitely get her in base roster Street Fighter 6. Everyone would be so hyped. Everyone would be so pleased with that choice. Okay, like I said, no Rufus, no Hakan, no El Fuerte. Get Makoto in base roster. Everyone's gonna be happy. Next up, we have some personal favorite characters of mine, and notice how I said characters plural.
Oh man, I love a good fight. Let's get this started.
Are you ready? Fight!
Yoon and Yang, the twins, bro. Yoon is my third favorite character in Street Fighter. It goes ChunLi, Sakura, then Yoon. I love him so much. He's so fucking cool. Yang I also really like. I don't like him as much as Yoon, but I still love them both. They were my personal choices to be eventually added as DLC into Street Fighter V. It never happened, unfortunate. But please, for the love of God, get them in the base roster of Street Fighter 6. I think they're fairly popular. I don't think they're like top tier popularity like Sakura, Ryu, Cami, like those type of characters. But I do think they're fairly popular, and I think their inclusion will leave the majority of players happy. So maybe they only do one, which would be weird. I think they've done it before. Street Fighter 3, the first iteration, only had Yoon. So they might only bring back one. I feel like it'd be weird. You gotta do both Yoon and Yang. But if they do bring back one, pick Yoon, because I think he's the more popular one. I like him better too. Just bring them back though. Bring them both back. Alright, next character. Boom. There we have it. Sean finally makes his return in the base roster of Street Fighter 6. How cool would it be to have Sakura? I wouldn't really say she's the disciple of Ryu, but she's basically like she's like the disciple of Ryu. She looks up to him, she tries to copy him. And then Sean, who is just straight up the student of Ken. How cool would it be to have both of them in the game, to have Ryu and Ken, and then Sakura and Sean. I don't think they've ever been in a game together, because Sakura is from Alpha, and then Sean was in 3, and then Sean never made it into 4 or 5. So it's been a long time since we've seen Sean. I do want to say, make him less of a joke character. Make him cool, make him stand out, you know, make him a little bit more unique, stand off a little bit from Ken. I think, just like everyone else, Sean has been a long-awaited return for Street Fighter, and I think, again, everyone would be really happy with his return, just like characters like Makoto and Dudley. Everyone wants Sean. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of people want Sean. So get him in base roster Street Fighter 6. Now, next character. I feel like we're lacking a little bit on villains. So we're going to need a villain character from Street Fighter 3.
Urian win.
And we have Urian. I debated between Urian and Gil, but I don't know. I think Urian's just a better character. I mean, they're both really cool. I just like Urian better, and I think he might be more popular. Not too sure. Neither of them are like top tier popularity in terms of popularity, but they're both fairly decently popular. So I'm going with Urian. I like him a little bit better, so I went with him. But I could see Gil filling this role. He's a pretty cool character. He's got a cool moveset. Honestly, I really like what they did with him in Street Fighter V. So bring him back to play. He can be a major villain or maybe like a minor villain in the story. He could even be the main villain. Who knows? But yeah, bring Urian back. Street Fighter 6. He was a sick character in 5. So I think fans would be cool with him returning. All right. The next character is a bit of a out of the box one. I'm just warning you. And there we go. Just like Sean, Necro was not in 4 or 5, so it's been a very long time since we've seen him. Let me just preface this by saying this is a completely out of the box choice on my end. I feel like Dalsim has a way higher chance of being base roster over Necro, but I feel like it's time to give Necro a time to shine. And Dalsim isn't played too much, and he isn't like super popular, so I think it'd be fair, give Dalsim a break, maybe bring him as DLC down the line, and give Necro a chance to shine. I think he has a cool design. I like them both, don't get me wrong. I feel like they could really make him cool in Street Fighter 6. So I'm saying Necro, Street Fighter 6, base roster. Alright, now that includes all the Street Fighter 3 characters. So now we got the Street Fighter 4 characters and then the Street Fighter 5 characters. So let's start with another fan favorite character who honestly, despite being such a fairly new character, I mean, she was introduced a long time ago, but in terms of Street Fighter, she is fairly new, and honestly I feel like she's on the same level as like Cami and Guile in terms of like she needs to be in the roster. And that character is
Jury wins.
everyone's favorite Street Fighter 4 character, Juri. She's kind of like the evil Chun-Li of the game. Juri, what can I say? Super popular. Not played too much. She's kind of like Baiken in a sense where everyone loves her, but not too many people play her. She has to be base roster. She might be like early DLC again, like Street Fighter 5, because Capcom knows she'll definitely fucking sell. She has a shit ton of costumes in Street Fighter 5. Same with Chun-Li. They both have a shit ton of costumes. Bring Juri back. Don't bring her as DLC. There's other characters that everyone would love to have DLC. Bring Juri back base roster, and then have those other characters that people love, like Sodom. Everyone wants Sodom. At least, okay, maybe not everyone. I want Sodom. Bring him as DLC. I know he'll sell like hotcakes. Same with Elena. Bring Elena as DLC. She'll sell like hotcakes. Juri, put her in the base roster. Feel like she's so popular, she has to be base roster. Alright, next character from Street Fighter 4, and the final character from Street Fighter 4, actually. And there it is. Another character who is super popular. Street Fighter 4 didn't have too many really popular new characters, but Juri and Sea Viper definitely stood out from the crowd. Bring Sea Viper back. She's a pretty hard to play character. Everyone likes her. A lot of people wanted her in Street Fighter 5, including myself. So I feel like if you bring her back base roster, it's going to be another character that's going to really please the fans. So bring Sea Viper back base roster Street Fighter 6. And now we have 2 more characters, and they're both Street Fighter 5 picks. So let's just go ahead and move right along.
Rasheed wins.
Alright, first up is a favorite of mine. Probably my favorite new character. Actually, no, it is my favorite new character from Street Fighter 5, that being Rasheed. I think he's a really cool character. I think he's got a really cool design, really cool concept, really cool personality. I say bring him back. And if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure in either his character story or in a cutscene in the story mode, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure at some point he did talk to Necro like online, like through messaging. So if Necro's in the game, you can have Rasheed in the game, you know, they can be buddies or whatever. Bring Rasheed back. I don't know, I really like him. I know not everybody loves Rasheed, but I think he's one of the best new characters from Street Fighter 5 for sure, and I think he's a fairly solid pick. I don't think he's the most popular, but I do think enough people like him to warrant him being base roster. And now for the final character, and that is
G wins.
That's right. I'm sure a lot of you might have predicted this, that he would be here. That's G/Q. If this game does take place post Third Strike, and G is in fact Q, because it's kind of been alluded that he is Q, but if he's not Q, obviously he'll come back as G, or if he is Q, he might come back as Q. So G or Q, I think they'll bring him back as G though. Just like Rose, they set him up to be a major player within the future of Street Fighter, probably as a villain antagonist, which I'm all down for. He's a cool character. He's got a pretty solid design, a fun playstyle. So I say bring G and or Q back, preferably G. Bring him back for Street Fighter 6 to round it off. 25 characters. But before you go, I have one more bonus. Like I said, there would be 3 new characters. Now, I don't know what 2 of them will be, but I'm hoping that one of the 3 new characters in Street Fighter 6 is Final Fight's Mike Haggar. It is long overdue. There's so many Final Fight characters that are in Street Fighter, but Mike Haggar, who's one of the main ones, has never been playable. Now, obviously, he isn't like a new character. He's an existing character, but this would be his first time playable in Street Fighter, so I'm counting him as a new character. Bring him in. He can like take the fill the role of Zangief as like the game's big body grappler. That's it. That's 25 characters, base roster, Street Fighter 6. I'm hoping this game is good. I'm hoping the base roster delivers. Like I said, I don't think the base roster will be as large as 25. maybe 20, maybe 22, maybe 24, somewhere around there. I think 25 is possible though. But before I let you go, I'm just going to run down a list of characters that I think have a chance of being base roster, but I didn't include them for one reason or another. Zangief, Dalsim, M. Bison, Sagat, Karen, or Kareen, however you say her name, Dan, Cody, Sodom, Alex, Oro, Elena, Manat, Ed, and Colleen. I think all those characters definitely have a chance to be base roster, a pretty good chance too, but this is just the base roster that I picked. So those characters, if you're like a fan of those characters and you're like, man, you should have included them, they do have a chance of being there. But this is just the list that I chose, so it is what it is. So there you have it, guys. That is my Street Fighter 6 base roster prediction. Let me know what you guys thought of it. Let me know in the comments if you like this roster. If this was the base roster for Street Fighter 6, would you be happy with it? Other than that, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe if you're new. Yeah, that's about it. I'll see you in the next video. Don't know when it will be, but sometime in the future.